mums, and welcome back to my channel. So today I want to talk to you guys about some NICU and special care essential items or must-haves. These are things that helped me get through my experience of Hunter being in special care and NICU for a week. I'll be sure to film my experience of NICU and also my birth experience, so if you'd like to watch either of those, feel free to subscribe down below and they will be coming out soon. If those videos are already out, I will link them down in the description box below. Like I said, Hunter spent a week in NICU and special care, and even though they were amazing, there were some things that I think were really essential to making it so that we could get through the week, because it was very traumatic and very emotional and very full on trying to recover from a C-section at the same time as having something wrong with your baby and not quite knowing what to do or how to help. If you are planning to breastfeed, I highly recommend taking advantage of the breast pumps. Some hospitals may not have them, but if your NICU has a hospital grade breast pump, use it like as much as you can, because they're amazing compared to a normal breast pump, and it's just a great way to maintain your supply while you're not able to latch your baby, because Hunter was in an incubator for a few days, so I actually couldn't do much skin to skin with him, and it just kept my milk coming in. The first couple of days, if you haven't latched your baby, you may find that your milk isn't quite coming in yet. I found that this helps stimulate still, and eventually on day 4 my milk did come in. And I also found that it was great, a great way to stock up as well, because I was able to take the milk home with me, and that way I had already started my freezer stash. You're also going to want to make sure that you have some syringes of colostrum. Now, whether you expressed during pregnancy and had some saved, which I would highly recommend, but if you didn't, then I would highly recommend while your child is in NICU to express the colostrum while it is there. That way you lessen the chances of needing to use top-ups of any other form of food for those first couple of days. It's also a really good immune system boost for your child who is struggling. Obviously some people can't breastfeed, and some people choose not to, and that's fine, but if you are, like I said, wanting to breastfeed, then there's some things that I think was really important. If you for whatever reason can't breastfeed, or your milk hasn't come in just yet and you're not wanting to use formula, you can have a look and see if you have a local milk bank. Basically, there are people who donate their breast milk to a place called a milk bank, and these mums have been screened and made sure that the milk is fine for your infant, and they donate it and you can give it to your baby. And that's also a really good thing, especially if you're a mum who has to temporarily go on medication where you can't breastfeed. It means that you can still pump and keep up your supply, but while you can't give them your milk, you can get it from somewhere else. If you are a mum who wants to bottle feed, or you have to bottle feed for whatever reason, highly recommend making sure that you take your own formula. Otherwise you're just going to be getting whatever the person in charge decides to give them, and obviously you want to be giving them whatever the best option is at the time. Button up clothing. You're definitely going to need onesies that button up all the way down the center from head to toe. Even just like normal short sleeve onesies, you're going to want to make sure that you have those, because if for whatever reason your child needs to have cords attached to them anywhere, they will not allow you to put clothes on them unless they can easily access the points that they need to with those cords. Also meant that we could comfortably drape the cords out the side of his clothes so that it didn't necessarily have to wrap around him. And even though they're a pain to do up when they're older, I found that for NICU they were really important. A beanie. Special care and NICU can get so cold, and unless they're inside an actual incubator, they are going to need to be wrapped up really tight all the time so that they stay nice and warm. And I found that a beanie was just like a nice little way to keep him warm on the days that he couldn't wear clothes. Skin to skin. If you are able to, I highly recommend being able to ask for skin to skin contact. Basically it means they take the baby and put them inside your clothes or under a blanket against your skin, and it keeps the baby warm. Also helps to stimulate milk flow and everything like that, and there's a lot of other benefits for it. But I found that the couple of times that I did get to hold him when he was in there, skin to skin made me feel so much better, because otherwise I didn't get to hug him or hold him And it was ultimately one of the things that pushed me to breastfeed, because it meant that I was allowed to hold him because of the fact that we were trying to establish that. Otherwise, he would have just been kept in the incubator and bottle fed. Video footage. Something that I really struggled with was when my son would have good days or good moments, and then all of a sudden I'd come back and everything had gone completely backwards. Something that helped me was to have daily video footage, because that way the next day I could watch the day before's footage and I could see that he had still improved, even if the numbers didn't necessarily add up. And it helped me feel like I was coping. I also, even though it is a little bit sad to look back on, love having that footage because it is part of his journey. And it is, I think, something really nice to have. Food. You're going to need a lot of food, lots of snacks, because you're going to get very hungry, and doctors are going to want to come and go at random times, and you're not always necessarily going to be able to just leave and go and get food, or you're not going to want to leave, which was my case. I just didn't want to leave my baby. But you're going to get so hungry, like especially if you are breastfeeding or your milk's coming in, you just get like completely starving all the time. And you're definitely going to want a lot of that, so you don't have to go out all the time getting more. Towel and face washes. I found that the hospital towels were very scratchy and harsh for newborns, so I liked the fact that I had my own face washes and towel for him when I did eventually get to give him his first bath. Something that I don't recommend is using your own blankets with your baby. We actually had one where they took it off my son when they were changing him, and it ended up in the hospital laundry and we never got it back. They could never find it. Something you want to make sure is done before you even have your baby is to have your car seat professionally installed, or at least make sure that you've installed it properly yourself, because you cannot leave the hospital without having a car seat to take them home in, and you don't want to be trying to organize that while your baby is still in NICU, or like as you're trying to take them home. Usually people who rush putting them in are the type of people who don't put them in properly, and then they have issues in car accidents. Take advantage of the hand sanitizer that they have there, or at least take some with you. NICU is a very sterile area. Special care, not so much, but you got to remember that a lot of babies in there are very unwell, or are not coping very well, or don't have much of an immune system. So you want to make sure that you take advantage of that. Make sure that if yourself or anyone you know is sick, do not let them visit. It is so crucial. I have heard so many horror stories of people going in just with a basic cold and then newborns dying because they were premature and their lungs couldn't cope with it. And it's just horrible and thoughtless. So definitely don't let anyone who is unwell or has been unwell recently visit. There's plenty of time for that once they are out of the special care unit or NICU. The last thing you're going to need is a really good support network. So that means to have a good relationship with the doctor, and also have a really good relationship with a lactation consultant, or someone who's going to help you with formula feeding if you're not going to breastfeed. You just want to make sure ideally that you do have a good relationship with them, because you're not always necessarily going to agree on the care. And you want to make sure that you really understand what's going on, and that you're always getting updates regularly of when things are changing. Sometimes it's really hard to hear things, so you also want to make sure that you do have someone for support with you, whether it's your partner or someone else who can talk to a doctor if you're feeling too overwhelmed to ask questions, and write any questions down that you may have, because you may forget them, because the doctor is not always in the room. Sometimes they come once a day, sometimes they come multiple times a day. So you definitely want to make sure that you have a good support around you, because it is very overwhelming having a child in NICU, and there's not necessarily anything that you can kind of do to help them. So yeah, that's something that's also very important. If you are a mum who has not been yet discharged from the hospital and you are still staying there, something I learned the hard way was that sometimes your child's feed times or care times would line up at the same time as when your pain relief is due. So have a good communication with your midwives as to what times you need to be up at NICU or special care, and if you're really desperate, have a stash of Panadol on you just as a backup, because I did find that I missed a few of the times that I needed to go back for pain relief just because I needed to be there with my son. The midwives were not so supportive of that. They were quite cranky, but at the end of the day I was not going to let my child starve. So you definitely want to make sure that you keep on top of your pain relief, because if you're in pain, if you're overtired, everything is going to seem so much harder and you're going to find it a lot harder to cope with what is going on. And at that point in time, your child really needs you to be there for them, and you obviously want them to feel comfortable because it's a very weird environment for them, so you don't want them to be like scared or anything. So you really need to keep it together for their sake as much as you can. But it is really good to like have a good relationship with all the workers and stuff, just in case you do need to have a crier event. If you're a mum who has a child in special care, my thoughts are with you and I wish you all the best. If you're a mum who is about to have a baby, you honestly never know if they're going to end up there or not, unless someone tells you before birth. So it's not something that you expect, but definitely just read up on the type of care level that your hospital has, because it is really important to make sure that you do have a really good NICU or special care team on board just in case. Like I said earlier in the video, I'm going to be filming my experience with NICU and also Hunter's birth story. So if it is already out, I'll leave it in the description box below. If not, click subscribe and I'm sure it will be out soon.